Good morning. Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. So, I have to tell you, the title of my talk is "This Moment," and if you got the e-blast, it didn't have the title in it because this week, all my internet, television, phone services, everything went out Monday, and nobody could fix it till this weekend. So I've been living in the dark ages, which. So all of the programs that I had, all the communications that I usually do, the emails that I do, the phone calls, the sending Unity my title, all that stuff, none of that happened. And I wasn't sure it was going to happen before today, actually, but it finally did, so thank God for that. So typically, I make a few notes and I prepare a little bit. Sometimes I don't use them, but like Michael, I usually at least want to look like I'm prepared. So I have notes and I do those on my computer, and then I print them. And even though a couple of days before they fixed it, somebody finally told me, this will stun all of you who are as old school as me, there's something called hotspots that you can use on your phone that make your computer work, which I knew nothing about. So I finally figured out how to do that. And then when you do that, however, if you have a wireless printer, you still can't print anything. So that did me no good at all. And then I also didn't know, never having used a hotspot, that it drains your battery really fast. So then by the time I needed to call somebody about the fact that I couldn't print anything to send to them, my phone was dead. So, ever have one of those weeks? Yeah, we just had one. So I thought I would call this title cleverly, "This Moment," and we'll just see what happens in this moment. So, I have two things for sure that I want to tell you about. And the first one is when Susan was lighting the candle and talking to us about the Christ candle and focusing on the Christ candle. I want to tell you a short story. I'm going to tell you two short stories, actually. The first short story is a true story. And many years ago, I was teaching up in Michigan for this group up there. And I taught up there once or twice a month and did weekend programs. Most of those programs were held in a private home that was large enough to accommodate us and had a nice big meeting room downstairs and all that. So we did that for years. And we always had a Christ candle in all the programs. And then my lovely wife, we were new to each other back in those days, came to one of those programs in this woman's house. The woman's name was Marilyn. And I was getting ready inwardly, preparing for the program that was about to start, and my wife was helping Marilyn decorate the room. They always put some flowers in the Christ candle and whatnot up to make it kind of welcoming and nice looking. And so my wife comes to me and she says, so I'm helping Marilyn decorate, and we have the Christ candle, and it's sit on this nice table in the center of everything, and Marilyn said, it can't be there. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, it has to be the highest thing in the room. The highest decoration in the room. There can't be anything higher than that. So it has to be up like on top of this mantle or bookshelf somewhere. But we arranged everything for the centerpiece and to have it on this center table. And she's very adamant about that. And when I asked her why, she said, because that's Stephen's rule. The Christ candle has to be the highest thing in the room. And I said, what are you talking about? And she repeated that. So I went to talk to Marilyn and I said, what's the deal with the Christ candle? Why can't it be there? Why does it have to be way up there? And she said, that's what you told us 3 years ago. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, 3 years ago at one of the programs here, we had all these decorations and we had various things, and I had the Christ candle sitting over here, and you said, oh no, you can't leave that there, you have to put it up on top of the mantle. And I said, you had plastic flowers that were hanging over the flame. And that became a tradition that everybody practiced. So be careful when you practice something to understand why you're doing it. Don't just do it. Okay. The second thing I want to tell you is I have no idea if it's a true story or not, but it's a good story. And it reminded me of today, me with having no preparation time whatsoever. So there was this young minister, and he was in training at this rather large church, and he was going to give the sermon that day, which was the first time he'd done it. So he was starting to prepare the sermon at home the week before, and he had a bunch of notes, and he was getting things organized, and he was feeling pretty good about it. And then just shortly before the Sunday service, he was praying about it, and he heard the voice of God speak to him and said, "Throw all the notes away. Just get up there and speak from my spirit." And he said, I don't know how to do that. And he said, "No, just trust me. I'm with you. I'm inside you. Just get up there and start. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a verse from Revelations. Just quote this. 'Behold, I come quickly.' And then whatever comes next is going to be me inspiring you. That's what you need to share with the congregation. So just trust that." I said, "Okay." So he's going to give that a try. And unlike the podium, they had a rather large stage and a rather large congregation, and they had a microphone on a mic stand, at the front end of the stage, and that's the one the speaker used. And so he's really nervous, kind of sweating bullets, and it's his time, and they introduce him, and he walks up to the microphone very confidently and looks at the microphone and looks at the congregation and goes totally blank. Can't think of a thing. Some of you who have ever done stage work might know that feeling. And so he's starting to really panic now. And he's thinking, "Come on, Lord, you said you'd be here. Where are you?" And nothing. He gets nothing. So, and of course, everybody's expectantly, like this, staring at him like, you're supposed to say something. So he's very perturbed. So he turns his back. He walks away from the microphone, walks upstage, has his back to the audience, kind of collects himself, says, "Come on, God, come on, God, come on, God. You told me not to use the notes. I don't have the notes. I'm stuck here. I went up there, and the only thing that came to me was, 'Behold, I come quickly,' and I said that kind of quietly, but I said it, but then nothing happened. So what do I do?" And he said, "Just go back, start over, a little louder, wait for me to inspire you. It's going to be fine." Okay. Calms down, takes a breath, walks up to the microphone, and once again says, "Behold, I come quickly." Everybody goes, "Oh, good, here he goes." Nothing. So now he's actually starting to sweat, and people are kind of like, and wiggling around in their seats and looking at each other, and it's like, what is going on with this guy? So now he's getting quite embarrassed. So he once more walks away from the microphone, walks upstage, has his back to the audience, tries to collect himself, is trying to decide whether he should run off stage or what he should do. And he says, "Okay, God, this is it. What are we doing here?" And he said, "I told you, walk boldly up to the microphone, say loudly, 'Behold, I come quickly,' and start talking. And whatever comes out, that's going to be me. Just start talking. I'm going to tell you what to say." It even says this in the New Testament. "Don't worry about what you will say, because I will be speaking with you." So just do that. He says, "Okay." So he gathers up all his courage. He turns around. He literally runs up to the microphone to start again and saying, "Behold, I come quickly." And as he does, his foot catches in the microphone cord, and he trips, and he literally falls off the stage and right into the lap of this very elderly woman sitting in the front row. And the congregation is aghast, and he is mortified, of course, and humiliated. And he gets up and he goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And he helps her up, and he says, "Are you all right, dear? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" And she brushes herself off. She says, "It's all right, honey. You warned me you were coming 3 times. I should have moved." So anyway, luckily nobody's sitting right in front of me, so I think we'll be okay. So the idea of this moment, some of the things that I wanted to share to you as I was contemplating this, we tend to think that we're living this life that has a beginning and an end, at least in the body, and that there's this flow of things. I don't know if you've ever really noticed it, but the only way you experience time and life is one moment at a time. You can't experience the future. You can just experience the next moment. You can't experience the past. All you can do is in this moment recall the past, in this moment. But it's always right now. And even like 5 minutes ago when it wasn't right now, well, right now it's right now. So it's always this moment. That is our life. Not a length of life, this moment. You have this moment. That is all you have. And if any of our hearts stop beating, we don't have the next moment. We are one heartbeat, one away. Always. Not as we age, not as we get sick, not as we get infirm. From the time you're born to the time you die, you're one heartbeat away from being dead. And one heartbeat away from staying alive. Always. One moment. That's it. And when we think about our spirituality, maybe you do this, most people I know do, we tend to think of, well, one day I'm going to really get this. One day I'm going to be enlightened. One day I'm going to be very peace-filled and kind and loving and patient. One day I'm going to get over all my little failures and quirks and bad habits. One day I'm going to be better. One day I'm going to have more money. One day I'm going to enjoy my life. One day things are going to work out. One day I'm going to get healthier. One day I'm going to start my diet. Nope. None of that's true. You have this moment. And do you know the only place you can find God? We talk a lot about outside and inside here. Not finding God out there, finding God in here, because it's true. But it's something we don't talk about. That's kind of spatial, if you will. Stop looking out, start looking in. But there's a time component also. Start looking to the past when you felt like you were more connected, or to the future when you hope to be more connected, because neither of those are true. What's true is this is the one and only time you can ever connect with God. Right here, right now. That's why it's called the presence. It's not called the past or the future, it's called the presence. This moment is where God reveals itself to you. And right now in this moment, what looks like is happening is there's this guy standing up there who forgot to turn off his phone. Actually, the really ironic part is I did turn it off right before we walked in. I turned it off. And my wife even said to me, "Is your phone off?" And I said, "Yes." And it was off. So how that happened, I have no idea. But there's one more quirky communication thing in my life this week. But here's this guy standing up here talking to us, and we're all sitting out here. And that's what's going on. That's actually only the appearance of what's going on. What's going on is in this moment, God is with you as fully as God has ever been or ever will be right now. As fully as he has ever been or ever will be right now. It is fully accessible to you right now. And if you look around, and why don't you? Because you don't have to keep looking at me. Look around. Look at all these people. Every one of them. Every one of them. Whether you like them, know them, don't like them, whatever your reaction is to who you're seeing, every single one you're seeing, every single one, this instant, is God. That's not a nice story or a nice idea. It's just true. The Spirit of the living God dwells in every single soul here. And not just the souls in this church, every soul there too. Even the ones you can't stand. Even the ones that think you're crazy. Even the ones that work against you. It's present. And if we don't learn to access it in this moment, because our vision of connecting to God is always out there or in the future somewhere, then when that out there comes and we've moved from here to there, and the time has changed from here to there, in that moment, we still won't know how to find God because we haven't learned how to connect to God in the moment. Do you get what I'm saying? If the only time you can connect to God is when you're in meditation, you're going to be disconnected more often than connected. If the only time you can connect to God is when you're praying, you're going to be disconnected more often than you're connected. If the only time you can connect to God is in this church, you don't live here. You live out there. You spend very little of your time in here. And what Brenda said a minute ago is she committed to the path of love. That means I have to connect to that right now to be on the path of love. Right now I have to be focused on love. Right now I have to be paying attention to the love in you and how it's expressing through you. Right now I have to be attentive to the love in me and what it's trying to express through me. Right now is where love is. Love is not in your past or in your future. Or more accurately, whatever love was in your past and whatever love might be in your future, the only time you can experience either of them is in this moment. This is the only moment we have, however many of them there end up being. And this is the only place you can find God. How can you find God at any point in your life that isn't that moment? How can you do it? So what's special about a time when you connect with God versus times you don't? Susan said also that love is in us all the time. And sometimes we connect to it, and sometimes, how'd you put it? We forget, right? Basically. So certainly that's true of me. So in those times when you do connect and do feel connected, really, again, we're always connected. It's a matter of whether we're aware that we're connected or not, or whether we lose awareness of our connection. So in those times when you are highly aware of that connection, what magic has happened that enabled you to be aware of it in that moment when you weren't before? What did you do? How did you get there? God gave you a magic potion, said, drink this, and then you'll experience my presence. God said, say these magic words, a hooba-dooba-dooba. Don't tell anybody, that's a secret phrase, by the way. And when you say that, you're suddenly enlightened. It's the ancient universal language, hooba-dooba-dooba. Or Yahoo. Do you know one of the names in Hebrew of God is Yahoo? Yahoo! I'm not kidding, it really is. So Hebrew is a fun language, not just a sacred one. And it's also a quirky language because he is she and she is he and who is he. But anyway, literally, that's quirky language. So, what do we do in this moment so that this moment becomes a holy moment to us and that we're one in which we're aware of God's Spirit moving in us and around us and through us? What do we do? We could name lots of things. We could name, well, we meditate. That's good, but what if you're in a conversation with somebody? Pardon me, I have to meditate now, or I can't connect to you. What if a child is playing in the traffic and a truck is coming toward them and the child doesn't see it? Do you sit down and meditate on what you should do first? Or do you go grab the child and get him out of the street? What do we do to connect? We have lots of things. We pray, we meditate, we study, we gather together in community, we believe, we have faith, we use affirmations, we use visualizations, we do a lot of things. But you know what works better than that is stop all the crap that stops you from being aware. Just let go of it. When I'm really irritated because all my communications didn't work this week and I don't like that, so what? So what that I don't like it? Is love less present? Is God less available? Am I not being taken care of? So what that it doesn't work? God works right now. There was no less present of God in my life during the entire week when I couldn't communicate with anybody than there was when it all worked. And sometimes I wonder if things happen in our life, to take away what we're used to so that we stop avoiding paying attention to the present. Stop watching television. Put down the stupid phone. Stop planning things for the future. I don't mean we should never do those things, but when we become obsessed with those things to the point that we lose touch in the moment. I watched a father at dinner just the other day out at a restaurant. Grandfather, actually. It was a grandfather with his daughter and 3 boys. Everybody in his family had girls. And then his girl had 3 boys. So they were a big deal in the family. I know all this because they're like this far away from me at the table and they're talking. But this grandfather is on his phone the entire meal as his young school-age grandchildren are talking and playing and interacting with his daughter, their mom. And I thought, you're missing this. You're missing it. Do you remember a show many, many years ago with Robin Williams called Hook? It was a takeoff on the Peter Pan series. It was a movie. And there's a point where his wife is talking about their children growing up because he's so obsessed with his business and says, you're missing it, Peter. Do you remember that? So are we if we're not paying attention in the moment. If we're remembering, boy, life used to be great. Boy, my body used to feel a lot better when I was 25 than it does when I'm 70. Boy, whatever. In the good old days, when things were right, not like they are now. Of course, in the good old days, my grandpa was saying to me, boy, in the good old days when things were right, not like they are now. And his grandpa was saying to him, in the good old days, when... If you ever get distressed about the amount of trouble in the world, just pick up any history book and find a time when there wasn't. And in some of the worst times in world history are when some of the greatest saints came forward with some of the most important teachings of the ages in the worst conditions of the world. Instead of saying the world is terrible, I can't do anything, they said, what do you want me to do, God? And then brought forth something astonishing. Not to impress people, but because they loved God and they were open to that love. Michael told a story at a public class not long ago about someone he knew who lost their 15-year-old daughter, and he was sitting with them. And what wise words of counsel do you think Michael came up with to make everything better for them? None. Because there aren't any. He sat with them. In the moment of their pain, of their grief, of their hopelessness. They weren't alone because he sat with them. That's it. My grandmother once told me a story. Again, don't know if it's true or not. My grandma had a lot of stories. But a story about somebody who used to live in her neighborhood. And it was a middle-aged couple. And they had a young, fairly young, school-aged child that died very unexpectedly and tragically. And the man was just kind of broken. And people would go over and try to cheer him up. And when people would take him out to dinner or do things with him, they would try to distract him from remembering, because remembering was painful. So they try to change the subject and not talk about it. And he just continued to be very depressed. And then one day, this little 5-year-old neighbor boy who lived across the street went over and sat on the porch with this man who was grieving and spent about half an hour with him. And when he came back, the little boy's parents said, how's he doing? And he said, oh, I think he's doing better. And they said, well, what in the world did you say to him? And he said, nothing. I let him talk about his dead son. And we cried together. That's it. That child didn't have a concept of, I need to make this better in the future, or I need to help him forget the past. This child was in the moment, and that man was hurting, and he just sat with him and listened to him and listened to the pain and didn't try to fix the pain, just listened to the pain. So we need to pay attention, or let me put it this way, we can pay attention. We can pay attention to what's going on right now. And just as an experiment this week, even leaving yourself out of the equation, because I guarantee you, you do this many times too, where we aren't attentive to what's really happening in the moment. We all do it. But just this week as an experiment, when you're out in public anywhere, take a look around you and see if you don't notice lots of people missing what is going on. Missing what's happening. When my boys had three, when they were really little, the two older ones were doing something, and that the little one had done something stupid or silly or whatever, and they were making fun of the little one, and they thought it was hysterical, and because it was funny, and they just kept kind of piling on because it was so much fun to them, and the little boy was having his feelings tremendously hurt, and they weren't trying to hurt his feelings; they were having fun at making fun of this incident, and then it just kept getting funnier, and they would add on and just kept getting funnier. But the youngest son was miserable because he didn't think they were having fun. He thought they were making fun of him. And so I came into the midst of that and looked at it, and I said to the two older boys, "Look at your brother's face." And all of a sudden they went, "Oh my God." And they stopped and apologized to him. Because they weren't paying attention to what was actually happening. They're caught up in their own little thing. And we get caught up in our own little things, whatever they are, our sorrows, our little quirky things, our fantasies, and we don't pay attention. So here's another homework. So just watch how many times people don't pay attention this week. Watch how many times. And then here's the other thing. Go through the New Testament and find the passage where Jesus is walking along and somebody comes up to him and he pays no attention to them whatsoever. You can read the New Testament many, many times and you will not find that passage. Do you know if you read my New Testament life story by following my life this week and looked at how many times somebody came up to me or I was in a situation where I wasn't giving them my attention, you wouldn't have any trouble finding those spots. Sorry to say. So we need to pay attention to what's going on in the moment, and that includes inside and outside. It is not all about what's going on in me, what's going on in me, what's going on in me, how do I feel about this, how is this affecting me? It's not just that. It's also not just let me make you feel good, let me make you feel good, let me make you feel good, then you'll like me better. It's not that either. It's paying attention to what God is doing in me and in you when we're sharing a moment. And if we both pay attention to that, then the Spirit of God can reveal to both of us, through both of us, whatever it wants to accomplish. But if either of us isn't part of that, then part of the communication breaks down. You get what I'm saying? I remember a story a friend of mine told me one time. He was married. He and his wife had a really good marriage, loved each other very much. And he said one night he woke up and she was lying next to him, and he was thinking about how beautiful she was and how grateful he was to have her in his life and how happy he was that they were married. And he just started pouring out his heart to her. "I just love you so much, and you're so special. And I'm so grateful that you're with me, and thank God we're married, and you're the best wife ever, and I just love you so much." And he said it was this just rich, tender moment, and then he heard his wife snoring. So it was a rich, tender moment for him, but part of the communication had broken down there. She wasn't even aware that he was talking to her because she was still asleep. So to have communication, we all have to be paying attention. And when God's trying to communicate to us, to our communities and to this world, that happens through us. So we need to be attentive to that. And we need to be attentive to how it's happening through each other. So I'm going to just play a little tune for you, and then we'll take a few moments of silence together. And interestingly enough, this is something I wrote many, many years ago that I've totally forgot about, popped into my brain last night. And it's called One Moment. One moment to be near you, one moment, one moment to stand in your light. One moment in your loving presence is more than my heart can hold. Every breath of every moment, your love draws me near. Tears of joy are freely falling. Only in your arms can I be free of fear. Oh, please hold me near. One moment. All we have is this moment. This moment is where we find you. One moment. So let's take this moment and just pay attention. In this moment, in this room, are all those souls that you see gathered here in body. And in this moment are also the echoes of every soul who has passed through this place. Every voice that has ever spoken or sung or laughed or cried here. In this moment, the Spirit that lived in Jesus, the Spirit that enabled him to do what he was sent to do, to bring forth this new and deeper understanding, to exemplify what God's love in action is, to do miracles, to be kind, even in the most trying of circumstances. That Spirit that lived in him, that we remember for him living it so fully, that same Spirit is in you and in me right now, living through us. not a different one, not a lesser one, the same. One living God. Right now, every choice you have ever faced, every difficulty you have ever moved through, the power that sustained you through all of those is with you in this moment. Whatever you will face in the future, whether it bring you great joy or great difficulty, whatever you will face, in the moment you face it, that same power will be present. In this moment, this now, here, in this simple sanctuary, God is loving you, hoping you feel that love, hoping you will embrace that love, hoping you will share that love, hoping you will recognize that same love in the faces of those you see, hoping some of us will give voice to it. This breath of life, this moment and this place is the holiest that has ever been. Don't miss it. If the idea of God is too complicated to figure out, stop trying. Just start loving. If the world situation is too difficult to understand what to do, just love the ones in front of you. Of all the teachings in the Bible, of all the commandments, of all the rituals, of all the stories, Yeshua asked one thing. Just love each other the way that I love you. That happens moment by moment, choice by choice, starting now. We thank you, Lord, for your teaching, for those souls who inspire and guide us, and comfort and uplift us, for forgiving us all our many failures, all the wounds we have caused, trusting in the goodness and sincerity of our hearts. We know you will continue to be there and draw us closer to you and closer to one another. Help us pay attention to the opportunities in this moment. Amen. Thank you all.